Today we're going to talk about making way for ABA, preparing for telehealth. So we're getting ready to start up the school year. Caregivers and parents are definitely one of the most important aspects of telehealth learning. It's very important for me to provide support to you as well as my students to help set up for successful sessions. So today I'm going to share a few tips and tricks with you to help encourage a positive and seamless transition. The first thing we want to talk about is setting up the environment. There are a few things you want to try to do in order to set up for learning through telehealth. The first thing is to make sure that your room that you're working in with your child is free of distractions. You want to make sure that you're using an area that's clear of toys and other things that may be distracting to your child. Try to make your learning area as distraction-free as possible. You could even try to put up a shower curtain around areas that you feel like might be distracting during learning time. Another strategy is to set up your learning area within a small contained space. And this is because it really helps. One, it helps your child learn and focus a little bit more. When you have a large open space, there's more likely to be more distractions, more items, more things that your child is going to. If it's smaller, there's less distractions, and it's also easier to redirect your child. At some point or another, there's going to be times where your child may not be as interested in what we're doing through telehealth, and they may try to go to another activity, another area of the room. If you're in a smaller space, it's much easier to redirect your child to come back and complete the activity that we're working on. The last suggestion that I can make is if you have the capability, please try to use a laptop or a computer for learning time. This helps to give you more capabilities during learning time, and when you're using an iPad or a phone, it can be more distracting for your child because they may be used to playing games on it, watching favorite shows. So this just gives it a new learning feel to it rather than them associating the iPad and their phone with doing really fun, highly engaging activities that are led by them. It'll help to decrease the distractions and to encourage on-task, engaging behaviors during the telehealth sessions. There's also a few things that you can do ahead of time to make sure that our telehealth sessions are even more successful. One thing you can try is to avoid highly preferred activities right before your telehealth session. A lot of our students and a lot of your children have difficulty transitioning from one activity to another, especially when it's something that they really like. So if they're watching a favorite show or doing an iPad game, it's going to be a little tricky to get them to stop that activity and to move on to an activity such as circle time or learning time that may not be as preferred as those items and those activities. So please try to refrain from doing the things that they really, really love prior to telehealth sessions. Another strategy that you can use is to store school materials in a bin. Please put all the items that I ask you to gather and put them in the bin. You can keep them close to the learning area, and that way they're ready to go as soon as we start the session. And then there's also times where I may ask you to bring something for a following session, so it would be great if you could have those materials all ready and set to go in the bin. It's also important to regularly update motivating items. And what I mean by this is a lot of ABA is based on using motivating items to really encourage your child to learn. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in the upcoming slides, but it's important to regularly monitor and make sure that your child is still motivated by the items that they may have used the day before or with other sessions. You always want to make sure that you're providing a great amount of choices to encourage the maximum effect that we can get by using those motivating items. Positive reinforcement shapes our behavior, and that's the reason why this is the most important strategy when we're doing ABA. Simply put, positive reinforcement is adding something or giving something to your child to encourage a behavior to happen again. So in other words, if you really would like your child to clean up toys after they're done playing with them, you go over, you say, Johnny, please go clean up those toys. As soon as he cleans them up, you tell him, wow, you did such a great job cleaning up those toys. Now let's go pick out a favorite snack. It's a way to encourage your child to hopefully engage in this behavior in the future. So they'll be much more likely to clean up next time around because they saw that they got a special reward for doing for doing a behavior that you were hoping they would do. So what's going to make our child want to repeat these behaviors again? There are several factors that we want to consider when we're providing reinforcement. It helps it to make sure that it's more effective, and that leads to faster and more sustaining changes that we want to see. There are 4 factors that we're going to talk about. The first one is that we provide personalized and preferred reinforcement. The second one is that we provide reinforcement immediately. We also want to limit access to the reinforcement. And we want to fade our reinforcement out when the skill is learned. We're going to talk a little bit about these coming up. So let's start with personalized and preferred. This is really, really important. You want to make sure that your child really is motivated for that reinforcer. When we're trying to find things that the child likes, often what we'll do is we'll take a few things that we know that they have a really good history in the past of liking, and we'll offer it to them. In this case, you can see that the boy has several options, but he's clearly looking at the one that the girl is holding. This is a good way for us to kind of gauge what your child is most drawn to. So in this case, you want to really try to provide choices and see which motivating item your child goes to. All right, so the next factor that we want to consider is immediacy. In other words, you need to really make sure that when your child does something really good and does something that you really want to see, we have to provide that reinforcement immediately. Okay, and when I say immediately, that really means that you want to provide reinforcement less than 3 seconds, really as fast as 1 second if you can do it. But the reason why you want to do that is because the sooner you reinforce that behavior, the more likely they are to do it in the future. There's also a chance if you don't provide that reinforcement immediately that your child might do something else and think that they're being rewarded for that. For example, if your child in this picture is cleaning up, you ask them to clean up, and then he goes over and starts banging on the door to go outside, and then you tell him that he can go outside, we might be accidentally reinforcing him banging on the door. Instead, we want to make sure the second that he cleans up, we'll say, great job, Johnny. I love how you cleaned up. Let's go outside, and immediately bring them outside. It's really important for them to understand what they're being rewarded for. And that's where providing that immediate feedback is important. Another essential factor for providing effective reinforcement is really to limit access to these items. So if you see the little boy down in the right-hand corner, he has a lot of things at his level. He can play with all those items. You do not want any type of reinforcement down on their level where he can have access to it. You want to either put it up higher, out of sight, because if your child has a lot of access to the things that they really love and really want all the time, it's not going to be an effective reinforcer when we're using it for learning time. And it really is very, very essential that we have things that are motivating at all times, because that really helps to drive our instruction and to help each child learn. If you see the snacks up in the corner, they're all put away. They're in containers where most likely your child wouldn't be able to open it. So for example, if you know that your son or daughter really loves chocolate chip cookies, if you have those out in a cabinet where your child can easily access them and take them out, it's not going to be a great reinforcer. You want to make sure that it's something that is put up on a shelf, closed in a bin, really put somewhere where they don't have access to it. That will really make it that much of a stronger and potent item that the child wants to work for. And the last thing we want to look at is to feed out the reinforcement. When we first start working on new skills, usually if they do a skill, we give them some type of reinforcement. That's a very frequent amount of reinforcement. We always want to focus on fading that reinforcement out as they develop the skills. So as they develop these skills, they get really great with them, then we might try to throw in maybe 2 or 3 other skills before giving them the reinforcement. And eventually we try to fade it out altogether. Something that you might see us do during our learning times is we might shift from providing reinforcers each time to using a token board, and that's what's up here on the screen. This token board is something that we can pair our items with, and they have to earn a certain amount of fish before they can choose an activity like a snack or a swing. And that helps to really encourage your child to do things in a more natural way. And that way they don't rely as much on us providing that reinforcement. So that's it for today. This is our first session. I hope you found this helpful. The resource that I used today, and I will attach for all the parents, is called Telehealth with ABA Visualized. It's a visual telehealth guidebook for BCBAs. It's really great because it comes with a lot of visual tools that you can see, and it talks about the things that I spoke about a little bit more in depth in case you wanted to research it more or understand it more. And of course, I'm always here if you have any questions at all. I look forward to starting our telehealth sessions off. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to message me or email me once you've signed the consent. I hope you guys have a great day, and I look forward to a successful telehealth experience.